Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here, talking about free agent targets for the Paytons. Because now that the draft is over, you're going to see a flurry of signings that teams will make to fill out the remaining holes and needs in their roster. And maybe some of the names we're going to look at today, depending on by the time you're watching this, have already been signed. But first things first, we're going to go back to an oldie but a goodie here at the channel. If you want to get a shout out, if you want to get your name on screen, share today's video, share it anywhere, but if you do it on Twitter and you tag me at Matthew Petey, I'm going to give shout outs to everyone who shares this video on Twitter and tags me. So follow the instructions. It's super simple. Hit the share button, text it to a friend, to a family member, post it on Twitter, Facebook, wherever you go. But if you choose Twitter, tag me so I can give you a shout out. Now, I want to refresh everyone's memories of the picks Denver made. I also just love looking at draft picks for like the next 2 or 3 months after the draft is over. Marvin Mims, Drew Sanders, Riley Moss. 3 guys in day 2, 2 players they traded up for. So expectations are high for Mims and Riley Moss. J.L. Skinner might be one of the steals of the draft in round 6. And then Alex Forsyth, a potential starting center with the 3rd to last pick in the draft. Like, I think Denver had a pretty good haul for what they had to work with. So they definitely did not fill every single need they had coming out of the draft, though. So if I had to come up with a list of 3 needs, I mean, they're not as big maybe as they were before, but defensive end is still up there for me. They didn't really add any pass rushers in this draft, and I don't think they can rely on the ones they have right now because we've never seen them do it for a full season. Running back still remains a need for this team. They did not draft a running back, and if Javonte Williams misses an excess amount of time, do they want to rely on Samaje Perine to be their 1st, 2nd, and 3rd down back? And I'm going to include offensive tackle. So we're going to look at some free agents at each of these spots here. Now, let's start with defensive end, because when I look at Denver's front 5, like Baron Browning, Zach Allen, DJ Jones, Randy Gregory, those are good players. I mean, if they were all healthy, like last year, this is a good defense. Jonathan Harris, I'm sorry, Jonathan, if you're watching, you're kind of the odd man out of this group here, right? Harris does not have a ton of experience in his career. Just 16 games, 20 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. He's more or less just stepping up because Draymond Jones is gone now, and you didn't re-sign some other players from your defensive line last year. And Harris, as of now, is sitting pretty as maybe the starting defensive end on this team, and that's a spot maybe the Broncos can make an upgrade in free agency. So there are some very notable defensive ends still out there that makes sense for Denver, right? Frank Clark is one to keep in mind. Jadeveon Clowney, there'd be a schematical change for him, going from a 4-3 to a 3-4. Shelby Harris, I know we all know Shelby Harris. Robert Quinn. Robert Quinn's just funny. He's very good every other season. He was bad last year. So the math tells me he'll be good this year. And Akiem Hicks, he's definitely the oldest of the bunch. Longtime New Orleans Saint and Chicago Bear. I mean, when he's playing and when he's firing on all cylinders, he's a disruptor on the interior D-line. The issue is availability with Hicks at this stage in his career. Now, the one we're probably all looking at here is Shelby Harris, right? Shelby Harris last year for the Seahawks, after getting dealt 5 tackles for loss and 2 sacks, they ended up releasing him. But before that, I mean, 6 sacks with the Broncos in 2021. I love Shelby Harris. I was a bit bummed to see him be a part of that trade package, but maybe there could be a reunion to be had if they can smooth things over after the trade. Robert Quinn, like I said, I really just do this to show you guys if he's due, right? Odd number of years. Those are his years. 2019, 11.5 sacks. 2021, 18.5 sacks. That is prime trivia right there. Who remembers that? Last year, he was cheeks. But in 2023, he should be a double-digit sack guy. So maybe Denver just tries to get a little bit of juice left out of Robert Quinn. The other 3 guys we mentioned in the video, Akiem Hicks, Clowney, and Clark, those are 3 more players who definitely, well, maybe not Hicks, but Clowney and Clark still have some football left in them. So I'm going to give you guys my, I wouldn't say dream signing, but maybe my preferred signing, if you will, in just a second. But first, be the GM for me. Do you guys think Denver should sign a defensive end, another pass rusher? I'm going to avoid outside linebackers, though. They've got guys there. They could they could stand to add some more because of injuries, but for now I want to focus, unfortunately, on one spot, right? Opposite Zach Allen on that defensive line. What about getting Frank Clark and having him bring his playbook from Kansas City to Denver? I mean, I know I'm being a bit sarcastic here, but maybe he can bring some sort of words of wisdom, because right now, Denver needs all of the help to beat the Chiefs. Nothing should be ruled out, right? I know it sounds a bit fan fiction. Go get Frank Clark and have him teach all of the Chiefs' secrets to the Broncos. I'm not ruling out any idea. No idea is a bad idea to beat the Chiefs. So if having Frank Clark just before he leaves Arrowhead steal all the playbooks with him, fine by me. Because right now, Denver needs to exhaust every option to figure out how to beat the Chiefs. And on a real note, Frank Clark could probably help in that department as a pass rusher. Plus, something about Frank Clark tells me the dude's a vengeful guy, and he might look to get some, revenge on the Chiefs for letting him go. Running back is the next need for the Broncos, and there are some notable running backs out there. Keyword notable. Might not be good, but at least we know the names of Zeke, Leonard Fournette, 2 first-round picks, Kareem Hunt, NFL rushing leader, not too many moons ago, Kenyan Drake, Dontrell Hilliard. Like, those last 2 guys are more rotational backs, and I included them because they're probably a bit more realistic if they wanted to just Band-Aid and try and bridge the gap until Javonte Williams returns, and you want to roll with Kenyan Drake and Samaje Perine. Because Denver's running back room right now, I mean, if Williams, let's say, misses 6 weeks, which that sounds kind of about right if I had to take a stab at it, who's signing up for the Samaje Perine and Tony Jones Jr. show? No offense to Tony Jones, but when I've never heard of you before, it's a little bit pumped up to think, yep, that's our third down back right there. So maybe you do try and bring in a big name, right? Zeke and Leonard Fournette, of course, the most notable guys. What's kind of interesting about Zeke is he was so washed last year, but I've never seen a washed running back have 12 touchdowns. So he's good for short line situations. So if you want to save Zeke for pass blocking and short yard situation, that's a good fit for him. Leonard Fournette, he's just an enigma, right? Playoff Lenny. If you can get there, then you've got a great running back. But if you're not there, you got a back who averaged 3.5 yards per carry last season and 3 touchdowns and was phased out of the Bucs offense and that god-awful run game that was somehow so bad it only made Denver's look even manageable. Now, Denver had an opportunity to address the running back position in the draft. They opted not to do that, right? They did not go with some of the guys that went before them, right? Here are some running backs that were picked before Denver at 83. Of course, they were never going to get Bijan or Jahmyr Gibbs. Charbonnet went earlier than I expected, so I don't know if they had a high grade on him. But Kendre Miller and Tyjae Spears, Tank Bigsby, those guys were there for the taking, and Denver passed on them. So does this tell me they weren't very... The big question I have is, the Broncos just not like those running backs, right? Do they decide, hey, we're not going to force a pick just for the sake of forcing a pick because we need a running back? Or did the draft big board just not fall their way and players they wanted at certain spots in the draft were no longer available? Or door number 3, do they believe that Williams is going to return sooner rather than later, so they don't need to waste a draft pick for just a couple of weeks, and Perine can get the job done until Williams returns? We're going to wait and see, but if they're relying on Samaje Perine for a long portion of the season, this could be a moment we look back at and go, that was probably a mistake by Denver if they wanted to maximize their 2023 season, because if they knew that Williams was going to miss a long time, probably should have given Perine a nice complimentary back to work with. So if Williams is going to miss several weeks, Denver should add another running back, right? Zeke and Leonard Fournette would be fun because, let's be honest, at least we know their names and all-time random Broncos players material. But maybe a Dontrell Hilliard or a Kenyan Drake to, balance the workload with Samaje Perine, take 7 to 10 carries, take 5 to 8 carries off of Perine's plate so we can be a little bit more fresh every single play and spread the carries around, could help maximize the run game. Plus, I don't see a way Sean Payton trots into the 2023 season going, Russell Wilson, Here's the ball. You're going to throw it 45 times a game because we don't have a ground game. Like, they're going to want to run the football. And if that's the plan, Perine cannot be a workhorse back, in my opinion, for like 8+ weeks if Williams is going to miss that much time. Now, we're going to look at some other free agent targets in just a moment. But over the draft, we picked up a bunch of new subscribers. So to all of our new viewers right now, thank you guys so much for subscribing to the channel. One friendly reminder to go ahead and turn on your notifications. That way, when breaking news happens, like Denver signs Ezekiel Elliott, or someone gets cut or anything like that, you get the notification when the video goes out and you're not in the dark. So hit the notification bell icon and select it to all. Offensive line is the last position I want to look at here because they made a lot of strides, Denver did, at this spot. They added Ben Powers. They added Mike McGlinchey. They drafted Alex Forsyth. But there is still one question. Who is going to be the Week 1 starting left tackle? We all know, unfortunately, Garrett Bowles suffered a fractured leg midway through the 2022 season. I'm going to go on a limb here and say, without a medical degree, breaking your leg in Week 5 might not make you available Week 1 the next year. I'm going to just toss that out there. So if that is the case, and Week 1 is not a guarantee, and then that spills into Week 2 or Week 3, I hope Denver learned their lesson from last year with Billy Turner, who they signed after he failed a physical in Green Bay, and they were optimistic he'd be ready to go, and he wasn't. So I really hope history does not repeat itself here, and the Broncos regime does not bank on Bowles being ready Week 1, and if he's not, they did not have a good plan B in place. So some other free agent offensive linemen here. Taylor Lewan and Donovan Smith I included just so you guys would at least see some faces and names you'd recognize. Really doesn't make a lot of sense for the Broncos, though, to have a part-time starter in Taylor Lewan. Cam Fleming, Dakota Dozier, and Chris Hubbard, those are some NFL long-time swing tackles, which Denver is looking for here to once again bridge the gap until an injured player can return. Cam Fleming, of course, the most familiar name up there. He started 15 games for Denver last season. He bounced around from left tackle to right tackle, depending on who was hurt or when Billy Turner wasn't healthy for the most part. In his career, 111 games played, 61 starts. I know it might not be the sexy pick because we want a new offensive line from last season, and bringing back some of the same cast and crew doesn't really strike a lot of confidence in this offensive line being better. But I'm telling you guys, I'd rather roll with Cam Fleming than some of the current guys on this roster right now. Like, there are a lot of players out there who have zero NFL experience. Now, his PFF grades last year might surprise you. Like, show of hands, who thought Cam Fleming would rank top half of amongst all tackles and 29th? Like, I did not watch Broncos football last year and think that's top 30 tackle. I think he did held it, like, remember Week 1 when we all learned Billy Turner was not going to start and Calvin Anderson was not going to be the starting right tackle, and you're like, whoa, what's going on here? Or Cam Fleming, whatever the point is. Cam Fleming ended up having a decently good season for a guy that we very well thought might not see a lot of playing time. So with that being said, who do you guys think the Broncos should sign? We looked at 15 names today. Is it one of those 15 players? Is it someone else? Just drop a name down in the comment section below. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we'll see everyone later.